We have in your packets a sample ordinance. We had asked Tara to craft a sample ordinance and a sample permit process that we could use to enable this type of business to operate kind of in a controlled environment, obviously on a route that is approved between the permit holder and the police department, and then with some restrictions on hours and that type of thing. And so that is what you have in your packets tonight. And we have Dan and Ashley back with us this month again, interested in starting this in the spring. Welcome back.
Thank you. Welcome. Thanks for having us again.
And now I understand that, I know that the Assistant City Attorney had shared with you the sample ordinance, so you've had a chance to take a look at it. Any feedback that you'd like to offer in terms of how it's structured?
We really appreciate the thought you guys put into it, and I think that I'm looking with the state law puts in place. You guys have left it very open for us to run a successful business, and we're really excited about the possibility of moving forward with this.
Okay. Anything that you have, Tara, that's come up in your research or in the development of the policy?
No, but if I left it open, I must not have done my job.
I just think it's not going to stop us from running a successful business, which we really appreciate.
Okay.
No, it seemed to cover a lot of what the other communities had, and the only question really was the issue you had brought up, Lisa, is we would expect that the driver makes sure they're not bringing on 36 ounces every time they get off and go into a bar and get loaded, and then they bring more on, and we're,
That was the question we had, was about resupply. If they bring on 36 ounces for the duration of the entire trip, because what we didn't want to see happen was that they come on with 36 and then after a couple stops are allowed to purchase packaged carry-out material from those establishments and then perhaps resupply. So by the end of the trip, they've had way more than that.
I don't have a ton of stuff to add other than I think we just start with that's for the duration is fine.
That's it for the trip, and you wouldn't admit them back on then with carry-outs from?
No.
Okay.
Well, I think that's the intention of the state law as well.
Yeah.
So certainly the intention of our ordinance.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense.
And the driver is to be trained to recognize signs of impairment.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, upon visual signs of impairment, they'll need a policy or a procedure in place that they can follow in dealing with the impaired person, because they certainly can't just put them off wherever. So, we certainly expect you to have a sound policy for how to deal with people if they either appear impaired when they get to you or along the route.
Yeah, we can spell that out a little bit more too as we go through. You guys all received a copy of the business plan, and
Mm-hmm.
we can definitely look at that some more.
Okay, go ahead, Tony.
I know that in Tara's memo to the committee, at the very bottom it says an open issue that still remains is the transportation company license for $200 per year, and I concur with that. The operator's license are $50 per year. I kind of wondered about this because I don't know, like taxi cab drivers, we have, let's say 50, 100 in the city, how many drivers they're going to have. And just throwing this idea out there too for discussion, the agents of a liquor establishment is granted the privilege of a bartender's license, an operator's license. If they are driving the vehicle, would they still need to have a driver's license, the operator's license?
Anyone driving.
Anyone would, okay.
I guess if they're driving, technically that's how it was drafted.
Yeah.
There's no exception in there for the owners. There could be, but there isn't.
Yeah, that's how I understood too.
The other thing I was just, and I guess I could ask expertise, how many drivers do you intend on having?
One driver, and then there'd be one person just facilitating the tour.
She's asking, you're asking, total company.
How many people are you employing throughout the business to have as operators?
Probably 2 to 3.
Okay.
And we had gotten a chance to, Chief Hurdle had been great in setting us up to take a look at routes. So we got a chance to do that, and the police department was really helpful in kind of looking over everything, and I think I included the routes in the business plan that I dropped off with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
We also had talked about putting together safety videos and things like that we would share with the police department as well.
Excellent. And now, I guess clarify for us, does the pedal pub emit music? Is there amplified stereo or anything on
There
that?
is a stereo on it, yep.
Okay, and so you'd want to comply with noise ordinance on that as well. I mean,
Right.
if it's to the volume level of a, motorcycle radio or car stereo or whatever, as long as it's not unreasonably loud, because it looks like your hours of operation are not so late that you'd be in violation of, the disturb of the peace or whatever, but if you're going through a residential area and it happens to be, you know, on the later end.
Right.
But let's just see here. I think the other things, I think that the ordinance that has been crafted really does cover all of the things that we had talked about in terms of regulation of the pedal pub operation last week, to enable them to work, but to work within a framework that dovetails well with everything else that's going on downtown. So obviously a pre-approved route, licensing of the owner, limited hours of operation, 10 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. It does address the noise issue. It's got conditions for safe loading and unloading, permits the carry-on of not more than 36 ounces of fermented beverage, not serving on the pub, no glass containers, we addressed that, and then also requiring insurance. So I think that, you know, this really cuts to at least everything we were looking for as a committee to get you started. Committee members, any questions for Tara or for the, go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, I'd just like to go back to the refueling question, because that was something that I was interested in too. Are you going to make it clear when you book a group that whatever you want to drink during that 2 or 3 hour period, you're bringing it with you when you step on there?
When you step on there, correct. And obviously we're going to stop every, you know, 15 to 20 minutes at different establishments. They can have a drink at those other establishments, and then they would get back on, but they would be able to refuel and essentially bring on more beverages after that.
Okay.
And we also have a waiver that they're going to be signing, so that's a part of it too. And as part of that waiver enforcement, there's a not only you'd have to stop and not be part of the ride anymore. You can essentially end the ride for everybody, but there's monetary penalties that go along with it.
Then the other question I had, I'm not sure who gets this, but when we first spoke about this, I think it was Romy who just made an offhand remark that we would be ending this at dark, wouldn't we? And no, nothing different was said.
Well, I think we were looking for a set time.
10:30 p.m.
My memory isn't what it used to be, but I don't recall the decision being that it was going to end at dark, but the decision, I thought, evolved into making sure if it does go past dusk, you know, he was saying, well, there aren't any lights or anything like that. So I presume
There are lights on them, aren't there?
There are lights.
Well,
That's what I
there
was
is a
gonna say.
requirement now
Yes.
in our ordinance, and they probably have them already, but we
They do.
did put in the ordinance that they need to have lights, they need to have the reflector.
Okay, so we're
sign.
wide awake and aware on it.
And they have to be signed as a slow-moving vehicle as well, correct? On the
Yes.
back, I thought I saw that in
Yes.
your ordinance, so.
So and headlights, and if you change your mind that you don't want them operating at night, you know, then let us know.
Well, I-
The other issue was the weather. I was a little disjointed when I listened to the minutes, but my understanding was that the committee decided that it would be fine if they had permission to operate all year long, but we would rely on them and their own liability concerns if the weather was bad. So they have their license for the whole year, and when they go out.
If I could ask them, is 10:30 good? You
Yeah, I
want to
think
be
it's
able to run until 10 or 10:30 and then say, okay, guys, we're done?
Yeah, that's plenty late, honestly.
Okay.
State law won't let them go past that time. That is a state law requirement, so we could make it less, but we couldn't make it more.
Make it more, okay. No, and it seems reasonable. I mean, obviously it's a startup, it's nothing we've ever experienced in the area before, but I think that it's good that the organizer and our staff and the committee have come together well ahead of time to kind of hammer this out and come to at least an arrangement that we can all work with. So any other questions on the proposal or of the operators? Go ahead, Chief.
Yeah, Lisa, I think I shared with you, and I'm not sure if the other committee members are aware of this, but we hosted a law enforcement meeting a couple weeks ago, and this issue was brought up. I brought it up for discussion, and there was 2 other municipalities present for discussion that have pedal pubs, and that was Madison and Milwaukee. There's some other municipalities that have ordinances, but they have no active pedal pubs. And so in discussion with those municipalities, they stated that both those cities, Milwaukee and Madison, in their pedal pub operation, they have, you're not allowed to carry alcohol on. They sell alcohol while they're on the pedal pub. And one of the issues that they both brought up is noise. Not necessarily from amplified music, but from people talking and yelling and, you know, whatever. So I just want to make sure that the community members are aware of that. And also, I'm going to give props to both Dan and Ashley. They're very good people. They're very responsible people. I believe the plan is well, you know, is thought out well and planned out well. But, you know, I do have some concerns overall in reference to people running and trying to jump on, people leaving bars with open intoxicants to get on, individuals leaving the pedal pub with open intoxicants and going to the bar. You know, we have all of those issues already occurring in downtown, and I think that, you know, this just complicates it. So it's not that I don't support it. I just think that we have to be aware of all of the other things that all the other factors, such as you know, there's possibility of liability issues with accidents, with people falling off the pedal pub because of intoxication, and all of those types of issues. So.
Right, and I think a lot of that is really going to, most of it is going to be incumbent upon the managers to manage the people that are getting on and off, and what state they're in when they arrive, and what state they're in when they get off, and where they get off and on. The ordinance does also address the noise issue as far as music, yelling, and conversation that carries to nearby residents audible above the level of conversational speech in excess of 50 feet. So, you know, we did try to at least define what the noise issue should look like. You know, I mean, without a whole lot of detail, and we certainly didn't set a decibel level, but, you know, we're trying to manage that as best we can as well. Go ahead, Tara.
The other thing I did in this ordinance was partly to maybe address the chief's concerns, is I did make it a prohibition that no passenger can disembark from the quadricycle while it's in motion. So if the officers see that, they can also cite the person who jumps, which I think might be kind of handy.
Yeah, so that'll give us, and that'll be the thing. I mean, it's just a matter, I think, of keeping a handle on who's on there and what they're doing when they're on there. But it sounds like you've got a good plan laid out. Your plan seems sound, and I think it dovetails well with the ordinance. Anything else? That's one thing we need to decide here in committee, is do we want to follow the cost structure that we use for the public transportation taxi cab limousine, or do you want a different fee? So that's the bottom of Tara's memo. So it's 50 for the operator license, and the company itself, the business license, is 200.
I just want to pipe up here. I'm just trying, maybe I'm missing it. The driver of the pedal pub has to have a bartender's license, is that correct? No, but they can serve.
They have to take that class.
They have to take the class, but they don't need the license.
They can have it, but they don't have to have it.
Sure, okay. Because I was thinking if they had the bartender's license and the operator's license for this, we're hitting them twice, but okay.
Right. Okay, and you were planning to put your selves and your staff through Safe Serve anyway, right, to get that training? Okay. All right. Any additional questions or comments, discussion? Do we have a motion to approve?
Just, I'm going to interrupt for a moment. Mary was asking, it's the driver of the pedal pub that needs the, I keep calling it an operator's license, but it's the driver license.
Transport operator.
It's going to be the same cost as a taxi cab driver's license.
So it'll be the public transport driver.
That's a proposal. It can be any amount, but the person who's on the machine or the vehicle, they pay some amount for a license, and we check them and make sure they meet the requirements, and then these guys would have a 200 or whatever amount license for their business.
I think this fee structure is actually reasonable. I mean, it seems, it does dovetail with, you know, other licenses, and it's not excessive compared to the others. It's similar, but it also then accounts for the background effort that needs to take place to get them through. So, okay. Do we have a motion then to approve the permit process and the ordinance as drafted? We have not yet. Motion by Peckham. Do we have a second? Second by Kelbach. Further discussion or questions? Hearing and seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries. Okay. Okay, so then this proposal also heads to the full city council for its next meeting as well?